Recording in progress.
All right, we will call to order the February 12th, 2026 Downtown Parking Committee meeting. Staff, could we have a roll call?
Committee Member Cohen. Here. Committee Member Evers.
Here.
Committee Member McRae.
Here.
Committee Member Stahl.
Here.
Committee Member Labrie.
Present.
Committee Member Newkirk.
Here.
Committee Member Pratt is absent. We have a quorum.
All right, staff, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Acting Chair Newkirk, we have two. We'd like to pull the election of Chair and Vice Chair from the consent item that was in error. Also, I'd like to add announcements before the meeting minutes and after public comment.
Okay, and you mean for the election of Chair and Vice Chair, just to move it to the administrative items, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and do you need an action from us for that?
Good. No. Good question.
Okay,
No.
then let's proceed to general public comment. So this is an opportunity for any member of the public to address the committee for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction of the committee that is not scheduled for a public discussion on this agenda. Do we have any public speakers?
We have no speakers.
All right, then let's move to announcements.
All right. I'd like to share two announcements. First, committee, we're very excited to welcome our newest addition to the Downtown Parking Committee, Hannah Cohen. Really want to appreciate you joining this committee and getting up to speed. And Ms. Cohen, if you'd like to share any quick remarks as we welcome you, we'd welcome that.
I just want to say I'm excited to meet you all and really excited to get to work on downtown parking.
My next announcement, I just want to bring to you all's attention the Carrillo lot. Since we have met last, the Carrillo Commuter parking lot has formally transitioned ownership and is now an active construction site for the Housing Authority. So as you go by Carrillo and Castillo, take a look, and that is the last of what were our commuter-specific parking lots, with the Coda lot previously having transitioned to the police department, the new station there. So that is it for announcements.
All right, thank you. That'll take us to consent item 1, which is approval of the meeting minutes for December 11th, 2025. Do we have any public comment on that item?
We have no speakers.
All right, so we are looking for a motion for approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Can we go to a vote? Oh, just all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. All right, on to item 2, election of chair and vice chair.
You don't have to abstain. You can vote to approve.
Thank you, Acting Chair Newkirk. As you are well aware, our former chair, Trey Pinner, has completed his tour of service. I believe he served 3 terms with downtown parking. We were able to give him a recognition and send off, as you may recall, in our previous meeting. It's also the beginning of a new calendar year and the time where we reappoint chair and vice chairs. So we would welcome nominations for chair and vice chairs and discussion, and hopefully we can newly appoint.
All right, so with that, I think anyone can, let's get nominations for both and see where we're at. You can self-nominate or nominate others. I think it's kind of a bit of a free-for-all on that front. So is there anyone that has any nominations? Committee Member Labrie?
I do. I think Committee Member Newkirk, you have served in the vice chair position. You've got the experience. I really appreciate. I would appreciate your ongoing leadership. So I would nominate you to act as chair for this next season, and I think Committee Member Stahl would make an excellent vice chair. My nominations would be Newkirk for chair and Anita, Ms. Stahl for vice chair.
Okay, and before we move on, Committee Member Stahl, would that be of interest to you?
Yes, absolutely. That'd be an honor to serve as vice chair on this committee.
Okay, and I'd be interested in chair, so we have those nominations. Are there any other nominations anyone would like to put forward? Seeing shakes of the head, do we need like a motion? How would you like us to formalize that? Okay, maybe Committee
I
Member.
would turn my nomination into a motion,
Right.
so moved.
Do we have a second?
And I'll second that motion.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I'll do abstain. I should have done abstain for the minutes. Still working this out?
Yeah,
All right.
abstain as well.
Okay. All right, so that's that. Thank you. Looking forward. Big seat to fill from committee member or chair, former chair Pinner. I appreciate his guidance and getting to learn from him, both in the meetings and the agenda setting meetings that we have. So hope to live up to his standard. All right. So now we'll go to item 3, which is the downtown parking capital improvement program update.
Thank you, Chair Newkirk. I would like to welcome our project planner, Chelsea Swanson, to present. And just to outline really quickly, it's really important to note downtown parking's role in maintaining and stewarding pretty significant set of infrastructure and assets that serve the downtown. And really want to appreciate Chelsea for her role in overseeing the care, feeding, and capital projects that make this sustainable into the future.
Thank you, Ed. Good morning, Downtown Parking Committee members. I'm Chelsea Swanson, project planner with the downtown team. And as Ed said, I'll be going over an update of our capital improvement program. So the majority of our capital projects come from our 5-year capital improvement program, or CIP, which is a citywide effort we develop every 2 years. And it details infrastructure maintenance, safety planning, and program needs. It also forms the basis of our capital budget for the next 2 years. It also helps us prioritize our projects with specific scoring criteria. Our most recent CIP 5-year effort was 2 years ago, so we're getting ready to go into the 5-year effort again in the fall. And the most recent focus was to finish our existing capital projects and not be adding to the CIP. This was sort of a citywide directive. I do want to note some of our projects are not from the CIP. We have unforeseen circumstances that come up. For example, a council directive, excuse me, to do a pilot project on State Street where we may not have foreseen that, or some infrastructure failure that we didn't plan for. So we do have projects we work on that come up mid-year that we have to get appropriations for. So this is just a recap of the FY26, FY27 budget that was approved most recently. As you can see, we really dialed it back in FY26 and just funded 3 projects: the parking structures and facilities assessment update, parking access control, and then our parking facility maintenance annual repair program. You can see we intended to ramp up in FY27. The caveat there is we do anticipate the number of projects will probably change and the funding will probably go down. So more to come in the next few months as we refine the budget there. So I'm just going to get into the active projects that we're working on right now and the most recently completed projects to start with. One big one was the State Street and Carrillo Street brick repair project. As you know, we have a lot of uneven bricks to maintain on the State Street corridor. So we did a big effort between the 400 and 1200 blocks of State Street and then the 0 blocks of Carrillo. We didn't hit every area. It's very expensive to do this work, so we stretched our funds as far as we could. That was paid out of Measure C Business Corridor Improvement Funds. That's a fund that we've received funding for the last since 2020. However, in FY26, we did not. So those were carryover funds from the previous fiscal year to cover that project. The next one on the list, 1200 block of State Street improvements. This was an example. It was a pilot project, part of the State Street Action Plan, which is a council directive to do interim work on State Street. So on the 1200 block, if you've been out there, you've seen we took out all the existing landscaping except for the trees, narrowed the size of tree wells and planters down to create more paving areas for outdoor dining opportunities. And then we did a soil amendment to refresh the soil and partnered with the Santa Barbara Botanical Garden to install native plantings as a pilot demonstration project. So if you've been out there, you'll see it looks quite different. So that's an example of a project we hadn't planned for, but we were able, because we were doing brick repairs, we were able to tack on the brickwork to that contract. So they sort of overlapped a little bit. So that was also Measure C funds for that project. And then we did a lot on the 1200 block this year. The trellis that leads, or between State Street and the Granada Theater Paseo there, that trellis was in really bad shape. It was just rotting and falling down. And so we replaced that trellis. And that was exciting to get that finally done. Mammy, can you? I accidentally hit that. Can you close that out? Thank you. Okay, moving along. So 3 other recently completed projects, both in lots 7 and 9. We've had some water intrusion issues, some spalling where chunks of concrete have actually fallen from the ceiling, and just some other water intrusion issues coming down from the upper deck. So we spent significant funds on replacing all the joints, the joint sealant in the upper decks, doing what is called a corrosion inhibitor sealant on the upper decks, and I believe also the second level at Lot 7. A lot of spall repairs. So it was just kind of an overhaul of both of those lots, trying to keep them going, seal them up, and just a lot of deferred maintenance there. That was paid out of downtown parking capital, but I also didn't mention in the slide, it was also fiscal year 25 was the one year we had all of our capital funded by Measure C. So it was also partially funded by those carryover funds. And then the next on the list, the Lot 5 repave and restripe. Lot 5 has been in pretty bad shape for several years. So we finally got to completely redo that lot, restripe it. We also had the opportunity to do some ADA improvements just with the paths of travel around the perimeter of the lot. And for that one, we tacked it on to a streets paving maintenance project for economy of scale. So that worked out nicely. So Lot 5 is in hopefully good shape for a long time. And that was paid out of downtown parking capital funds. And then the last on the list is the Lot 6 HVAC replacement on the roof of the Granada, the Lot 6, the HVAC that serves the downtown parking offices needed replacement. We also had some leaks on the other side of the roof where HVAC serves the server room for the call center. And so we did some repairs to those leaks as well. So moving along to projects in the construction phase. We have the Lot 9 cable barriers. We're not physically in construction yet, but we're ready to go on this one. We've been through design and building permit issuance. And the purpose of this project, if you look at the photo in the lower left corner, is to prevent that situation from continuing to happen in the future. Lot 9 has these wooden railings that surround the upper deck perimeter and the level below it that can't stop a vehicle if someone accidentally presses on the gas, which happens more than you'd think. So the project will be installing cables very similar to what we put in at lots 2 and 10, if you've seen those in the last couple years. And that is also Measure C FY25 carryover funds. And then ADA compliance at the depot lot. We have been picking away at ADA compliance issues at the depot lot and the Amtrak station for the last, it's been about 4 or 5 years. This was in response to a nationwide effort by the Department of Justice. They looked at every Amtrak station, so we weren't targeted, and they wanted to bring all the stations up to code with ADA compliance. So some issues were flagged. We had to hire a third-party architect and had the property surveyed, the station building and the REA building as well. Most of our improvements were signage related. We added a loading zone, if you've seen it, in front of the station. A lot of access issues with doors, updating push plates, things like that. So the city's responsibility is complete, and now Amtrak is on the hook for updating the restrooms, so they're not ADA compliant. So they're trying to get through our building permit process. I'm trying to help them. They're close, and we anticipate those improvements will be done this spring. So we're nearing the finish line. We do have an agreement with the DOJ to finish in May of this year. So we're trying to get there. And we've been funding that effort out of also Measure C business corridor improvements. Okay, the last one on this list, 916 and 920 State Street utilities upgrades. This is another project we hadn't planned for in our CIP, and it really comes out of the renovation of the film festival that was just completed last week. As the film festival was doing their renovation, it came to our attention that a lot of the utilities needed to be upgraded. They were sort of intertwined with the 2 adjacent tenant spaces. So as they upgraded their utilities, we had to make changes to water lines. We had to reroute some electrical, upgrade meters, and separate HVAC systems. So we've done the majority of the work. The last 2 remaining items are to install new HVAC systems for the 918 and 920 spaces. So we're getting close on that. Okay, moving on to projects in the design or planning phase. So, as I mentioned earlier, one of our projects that was funded this fiscal year was the parking structures and facilities assessment. The last time we did this was in 2017, so we're coming up on almost 10 years. And we did go through an RFP process to hire a consultant. We ended up selecting Watchery, who did the previous assessment 10 years ago. We did get 6 proposals and had interviews with 3, so it was a good group and a very competitive group. This assessment's going to look at all of our parking structures and surface lots for maintenance needs, short-term, mid-term, long-term, and also larger capital project needs. So they'll look at the condition of the concrete, asphalt, they'll look at mechanical, plumbing, and electrical systems. So it's just kind of an overhaul of like where are we at with all of our facilities and what do we need to do. The timing's great with our 5-year CIP coming up in the fall because they also provide recommended repairs and then cost estimates for those repairs. So that's really going to be helpful and great timing for our CIP. The other thing the assessment's going to look at is where we could possibly place pay on foot or self-service pay stations in our facilities. So that's another thing Watchery is going to help us do, and they're going to look at any ADA implications with those new stations. The focus will be the depot lot, which you'll hear more from Ed about in a minute. So we're close to kicking off this assessment we're just working on the contract right now with Watchery, so excited to get going on this. And then the next 2 projects are, if you've been on this committee a while, many of you have, but they're old ones that have had a lot of stops and starts some of our projects do that over the years for various reasons. There's the depot lot map project, which is really a real estate cleanup of our depot lot property. It was on hold for a while, but it's back, and we're just working through the discretionary review process. The purpose of this project is really to take, so at the depot lot, we have about 20 different parcels. There don't need to be so many different parcels all through the parking lot. The idea is to merge all the parcels together and then re-subdivide them into 3 main properties. So it would be the Morton Bay Fig Tree Parks property, which is currently a parcel, but the boundaries are going to change just a tiny bit. And then the Moxie property, and then everything else on the depot lot would be one parcel instead of all these tiny individual parcels. So we've been working with the Community Development Department on getting that through the discretionary review process to get a map recorded and get a coastal development permit. The Lot 3 Paseo has also been around for quite some time and had many different versions to it. This is the Paseo between Figueroa Street and Lot 3 that's currently got fencing in front of it. Where we're at now, the project has been split into 2. Both have to get approval from the HLC, and the whole purpose is really that Paseo has been in bad shape for many years. It's become a nuisance area. It needs a lot of work, and there have been different iterations of this project to permanently close off the Paseo, to not permanently close it off. We had a project approved actually at HLC to do a new walkway and shift the whole entrance of the Lot 3, the vehicular entrance, and add a new walkway there, and then a mid-block crossing that connects with the Lot 4 Paseo, and that actually got approved 2 years ago. It's still good, but we just don't have funding for it. So this short-term effort that we're looking at for the Lot 3 Paseo right now is to add some overhead lighting. It would be very similar to what you see on State Street, probably the same exact lighting. And then string lighting on the trees, add some potted landscaping in front of the transformer that's in the Paseo, and take down, there's 6 giant concrete columns that have been sitting there for many years that need to come down, so those would come down. And then we may paint the surface of the Paseo. We would love to do permeable pavers in there. We don't have the funds to do that right now. So the idea is to create more of a uniform look in there, because right now it's a mishmash of 4 different materials. So we've been working with, our biggest obstacle with this project over the years has been just seeing eye to eye with the HLC. So we've been working with the subcommittee, and they're on board with our short-term solutions, and we plan on moving forward in the next few months on these efforts. So that's exciting. Okay, and these last 2 projects, the Lot 9 planters. So this is a project where we're looking at installing new planters on the roof of Lot 9 on the perimeter that borders State Street. Right now you can walk right up to the wood railings, and unfortunately sometimes people throw objects down onto the sidewalk area. It's been a bit of a nuisance issue. Excuse me. So the idea is to fill in those gaps with planters and bougainvillea or some unwelcoming landscaping so that people are not continuing to do that. So we have a design, and we've talked to the HLC chair because it does require their approval, and he seems very supportive of our design. So we are getting ready to formally submit and get that implemented. And then the last one is parking access control. This is a fund that is actually just, we continually fund it just to keep and maintain our infrastructure related to access control to our parking lots. And Ed, did you want to add on what we've spent most recently in this fund?
Thanks for mentioning this, Chelsea. So the parking access control is part of our revenue control system, and I really want to appreciate for the first time in many years all the different city partners, and especially the city staff, Ethan Pitney, sitting here before us, who often presents, and Kayla Fair worked really tirelessly with the support of Roy Forney, our parking supervisor, to launch an e-commerce platform for our monthly permit holders. So effectively our commuters downtown who have monthly permits. The system that we had was fully, a legacy system. You pay monthly, no subscription, no auto renewal. You are getting billed, and then it's like there's a billing dispute, or it would take months to kind of clear accounts. If we did actually close out an account, it would take sometimes up to a week to get people back online. And we've been able to pay out of this fund to get a system that people can pretty much instantaneously pay for a parking permit. If they cease payment, they get notified and their system no longer works. It also gives us a ton of new flexibility so that people can use our system with less friction and take advantage of the discounts of permits and sometimes like systems like prepaids. So you all received a few different briefings on the e-commerce solution that's working well, and we're continuing to explore more of the options that allows us to do. There's actually a lot more on that front. We're also adding for our residential parking permit, so a lot of the downtown zones are residential parking areas. People will now be able to also get that permit online, which was not available in the past, and we pay for that service through this capital fund. So it's a little bit strange because you don't think of that as a capital fund, but this parking access control has kind of been a placeholder for many years and one that we're finally able to take advantage of.
Good. And that concludes my presentation, and I welcome your questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, staff, for that presentation. Do we have committee questions? Vice Chair Stahl.
Thank you. So you'd mentioned the trellis repair on the 1200 block. I was wondering if there's anything going on with trellis repairs for, I believe it was lot 11, if there's any updates, because I didn't see that in future projects.
Lot 11 was, yes, we have that in our CIP, and that's still, we still plan on addressing. There's several trellises in there that need fixing. We didn't have enough funds. We had a lot 11. We have a lot 11 project fund. Once we got into quotes and looked at what the cost of the project was, it was way short. So we ended up actually using those funds towards other capital efforts. But yes, that is definitely still a need that we need to address in the near future.
If I can just add, it's really important to note how significant replacement at end of life of some of these features is. The project for the what's called Spax Street informally, the Paseo there from Granada to State in Victoria, that was an expensive and difficult project. Lot 11 would be probably threefold that, maybe fourfold that. The Lot 3 Paseo columns were formerly holding trellises, probably last up a couple decades ago. That's what those columns, were originally intended for. So it, just to kind of underscore a great question and just note, like there's the capital challenge to maintain the infrastructure that we have is a significant one.
Other questions?
Mr.
Committee
Chair.
Member LaBrie.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Swanson, for the report. I have a couple of questions. The State Street brick repair, do you have a sense of the price per foot or price per square yard?
I did.
Or maybe
I
how many total square feet were?
Yeah. Let me get back to you on that. I could probably look it up really quickly. I just don't have it off the top of my head. It was much higher than I thought it would be, but running it by our engineering team, they thought it was reasonable. So,
My question would ultimately lead to, I would assume as part of the WATRI report, we'll get, I don't know if that is in their scope, but we should know the total kind of extent and condition and priority of brick repair up and down state, and have some sense of when those, repairs are going to be needed, so that those can flesh out a more robust capital, plan looking out to however far, whether it's 5 or more years. And that price per foot would be a good kind of starting point to help put some numbers with that. And kind of to that end, too, I would assume that this committee could see a, more extensive capital list of projects like Lot 11 and that trellis repair. All of those things would be good to have, even if we don't have a plan to fund them, partly so that we can have discussions with and make recommendations to council, having that knowledge. We don't want to be supporting things when we have no money for things that that we really need to do. So that would be helpful. And then the projects in construction, I assume the numbers that you gave us, those are complete numbers. Those are rather, that'd be the cost of the project once it's complete. That's not where we're, currently funded halfway at 250. It's not 500. It's 250 is the.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
It's a project fund.
Okay. And then the projects in design and planning, the depot lot mapping, I've forgotten to what end are we cleaning up the mapping? Is there a game plan for the park and for the Moxie property?
The Moxie property won't be changing, so that's going to remain its own parcel. The park property, Parks and Rec is working on a couple small projects. I think they're working on a fencing project right now. So the property line moves out slightly. I think it's from maybe 5 feet to edge of curb on the drive aisle side as you're like coming in off Montecito Street. And it's really to give parks control. They're taking care of the Morton Bay fig tree, and that's their goal. So it gives them a little more room to have a buffer around the tree. So very minor changes to the boundaries of that parcel, but it's really just to give parks the control of that property, which they have now. It's just making it a tiny bit bigger.
So I guess I'm still a little confused as to what is the benefit of doing the cleanup.
Got it. So the depot lot, so we have a couple different parking areas at the depot lot, what we call the old Fish Enterprise lot. All those parking areas, and including where the REA building is and the Amtrak station, that's where there's close to 20 different parcels. And I think the intention is really to create a more straightforward, it's a real property cleanup, basically, I think is the intent. Easements clear, don't have multiple property lines going across parking lots that don't need to be there. So I think it's just a cleanup effort, really.
Okay.
Committee Member Labrie, we'll be diving deep into Lot 13 shortly, and we can address that a little bit.
Thank you.
And I did want to also say I'll be coming back to you as we get into the 5-year CIP, where you can see all of the projects, as you mentioned, which would be way more helpful. That will come before this committee, before the 5-year CIP goes to any other board or commission in the fall.
Okay, thanks. Other questions? I have a couple. Maybe just for the benefit of the committee, kind of give a brief overview of like where does DSBIA maintenance end and DPC responsibility begin on State Street?
Chair Newkirk, that's a great question. So the city through downtown parking, really through the Downtown Services Fund. So what happened in last year's budget is we separated out care and feeding for the State Street Plaza from the Downtown Parking Fund. And so that is now class 1314 versus 1315, and those funds come from the general fund versus our parking fund. But we still administrate that. We entered into, so the custodial work, which is pressure washing, spot cleaning, some litter and trash. That work, previously we had, there've been different. It was historically like a block by block. That was an agreement with the old DO. There was a contract with Johnco. It was typically like a $500,000 contract that has kind of grown over time. And we were able to contract with the DSBIA, that in turn contracts a firm called District Services that cares for the State Street Plaza. Our contract is a subset of their overall contract that extends fully out into the CBID zone. So this is actually a really, it's really great to see that areas like Anacapa out to Santa Barbara Street, Chapala Street out are getting care and feeding, similar to the State Street Plaza, the side streets, that they previously never really did. It was just never kind of budgeted, so any need would have been addressed through streets or through parks or through private property owners. And now the level of service in terms of maintenance is much, much higher, thanks to the CBID. So again, our plaza contract supplements that and is specific to the 400 block to the 1300 block. So our team continues to care for the underpass, which was a 20 million some project and requires us to really maintain the level of quality of that new underpass all the way out to the Dolphin Fountain at Cabrillo.
Thanks for that. And then, so like some of these projects in 2025 saw a lot of Measure C funds. Is it kind of safe to assume we're not going to see Measure C funds in downtown parking moving forward, or is there a sense of what kind of bailout we might benefit from in the future?
Let me answer that in two parts, Chair Newkirk. One, what happened in our fiscal year 25 budget was really to support the shortfall that that we've been recovering from since the pandemic. Downtown parking in particular, as a parking system, got hit hard through the pandemic, and so to balance the budget, that was a one-time Measure C support for our capital projects. That's not going to happen again. The other question of the business corridor improvements is probably could still be an open question, but basically the allocation and need for Measure C probably makes that difficult to come back into the future.
And then last question is, do we have like a estimate on when the assessment will be completed? I think you mentioned it's kind of kicking off now, or like how long a process is that?
I believe it was like a 2 to 3 month process once kicked off, was their estimate.
Great. Thanks. Any other questions before we check on public comment?
Yeah, I do have one
Yeah.
question. I'm just curious, how often do lots need to be repaved?
That's a great question. I think we've let some of them go much longer than they should have. And I don't have an exact answer for you right now. Since I've been in this position since 2020, we've only repaved one lot. And I know that was lot 5. And I know that there was already a need when I came on board to repave that. So I can't give you a specific answer, but we usually work with our engineering team to go out and assess the condition of the lot. And again, it usually comes down to funding and do we have enough to do it. So.
Okay, thanks.
Committee Member
If I
LaBrie.
may, I was just going to add a little bit to that answer, say there are things that we can do to help extend the life of the lot by sealing and crack sealing and doing regular maintenance to prevent us from having to re-asphalt or rather, tear up or grind and relay asphalt. And so it would be helpful for us to understand those construction nuances a little bit better as if you pick up information, I think that would help us to understand the importance of maintenance items, especially if, spending $10 today saves us $100, a year from now. We want to understand that cost-benefit analysis.
All right, any other questions? I think maybe we'll go to see if there's any public comment.
We have no speakers for public comment.
All right, back to the committee. Any comments before we close this item? I can't help myself. I have a couple. And this one is almost for the committee. I think some of the new members, we had some really difficult budget conversations recently, and I think the CIPs show you that we have a lot of costs, and the way to balance our books is revenue versus cost. And you see the Measure C funds that kind of made our kind of ongoing CIPs happen, and those monies will be gone. And we have an assessment coming up. I can't imagine the assessment is going to reduce the number of CIPs. I have a sneaking suspicion it will add, which means more funding is needed. And as we defer, costs will go up. It is not in line with CPI or anything like that. It's a much sharper increase in costs. So I think that's something to just be thinking about, if and when we get to conversation about budgeting and how we operate, that there's a lot of costs that, it's not about staffing or something like that. These are enormous costs. When you're talking $500,000 in terms of, revenues 10 to 14 million, these are big chunks of money. So it's something to be really thinking about. And the other thing, I'll be a broken record on this too, is I'd love if the city could find a way to exempt these straightforward, smaller, city-funded projects from the HLC process. I know it's in the charter, but a charter amendment that's going to the ballot just came out of Downtown Parking Committee within the last couple months. And some of these projects that should be, I think, a lot more straightforward than they are, where I think we should trust city staff and their designers to meet the expectations of the design district, the mission, I'm going to blank on the name of it, but I would hope that at some point we can find a way to streamline those projects, because we just don't have the money to redesign and massage on some of these smaller things. So those are my comments on that. All right. Anyone else? All right, let's move to item, thank you, Ms. Swanson. Let's move to item 4, the Lot 13 Train Depot parking lot projects discussion.
Thank you, Chair Newkirk. I'm going to welcome our parking supervisor, Roy Forney, up to present, and I really want to appreciate the work that he's been leading. There are quite a few projects on this lot. Actually, Naomi, could I take that for a moment? This is the train station depot lot, as Chelsea was showing you before, with the maze of parcels that need to be streamlined. What I do not include in this parcel is the Moxie Museum, which you can see on the adjacent State Street. That's not within the green confines. That is a city-owned property that's long-term leased to the Moxie. And you see kind of going around the Reagan Ranch, and then also the commercial space that's currently rented out, that was the Enterprise Fish Company years ago. And what we call the fish lot was added into this lot. You'll see the Parks parcel with the Morton Bay fig tree, which is a very significant landmark, by the way. People love to go take pictures of the Bay Morton fig tree. It is a beautiful specimen. and the grass area adjacent there on Montecito Street. You'll also notice we have 2 historic buildings that we maintain on this lot. The train station itself, which is a beautiful building, I believe was 1901 or 1900. And then the Railway Express Agency, or REA, building, which was built just a year after, which you'll see, right smack in the middle of our campus here. So, and it's significant because this is it's a transit hub for the Amtrak. It's also a transit hub for what was Greyhound, which is generally now Flixbus. And, we're adjacent the Funk Zone, West Beach, State Street. If you're on what is effectively Chapala Street, but within the compound here, you actually can look down Chapala at the ocean. It's a really lovely space. It's also a challenging lot. One last comment. There's also a fair amount of nuisance behavior, which is an ongoing challenge in a lot of spaces, but that space in particular is impacted pretty heavily by negative behaviors, especially from some of the unhoused communities. There are a number of projects underway. As Chelsea mentioned, ADA upgrades that the city has completed and that now Amtrak is completing, and this is a historic building ADA upgrade, which is a special flavor of project. And we got to go on a tour to see the improvements that they're making, and while maintaining the historic character of the restrooms at the public restrooms at the train station. There's a new state law that bans maintenance of non-functional lawns. In other words, if turf is not being used for recreational purposes, either sports or picnicking or things like that, it's basically not legal to maintain. First wave of enforcement applies to municipalities or public agencies. Second wave, private entities. And so we've been working with the water department, or I should say the water resources department, to map out a project where we would maintain some functional lawn, but lawn that is not deemed functional as, again, picnicking or kind of sport would be replaced by low water requiring more semi-arid climate ground cover. And that will be a CIP project. The addition of EV chargers, sustainability and resilience, has been working with us, as they do in kind of all of our lots. All EV charger projects are their own capital efforts, and there's one that is very close to construction, working with Southern California Edison for a new power supply and addition of, I believe, some fast chargers and some mid-level chargers in what would be the fish lot side of this complex. Parks is underway with their new fencing for the Bay Morton Fig Tree, which I think would be really nice, and I think will also change the dynamic of how people visit that for the better. We are also in negotiations for a new tenant in the Railway Express Agency building. We are really excited. Unfortunately, Greyhound effectively shuttered their in-person ticket office going back about 4 years. So that has just been closed that entirety of that time. Last year, Wheel Fund Rental did not renew their lease for the space that they effectively were mostly using for storage. And so that building has not really been activated for a number of years. This tends to exacerbate negative behaviors because it's sort of a void. And also it means there's a lack of services for train or bus users who may need to wait at this campus for sometimes extended times. So we're really excited to activate that space and hopefully bring on a new tenant for our small portfolio of commercial property. And most importantly, for our consideration today, we wanted to walk through the concept of changing the parking access and revenue control system for this lot. and effectively removing the gated entry system and building out a new system. And so I really want to appreciate, again, and turn over to Roy Forney, who will walk us through our thinking and kind of how this lot is unique and how what options we have to potentially address it differently.
Good morning, Chair Newkirk, committee members, Roy Forney, Downtown Parking Operations Supervisor. This morning, I just want to talk a little bit and add on to what Ed was saying with the uniqueness of this parking lot, the depot lot or Lot 13. It is a mixed-use lot with 193 total parking spaces and just serves so much down in our lower State Street area between State Street, Montecito, West Beach, the Funk Zone. In this lot, it is unique. We have hourly parking, but we also have long-term parking for the Amtrak station as well as a Greyhound or Flixbus. This is unique because all of our other parking facilities only allows parkers to park up to 72 hours and not exceed that. Here, they can park up to 30 days. So it is very unique in that sense. The other piece that makes it very unique is this lot is the only parking lot within our facilities that will not lock out vehicles once the lot gets full. And this is for many reasons, mostly to serve the Amtrak customers as well as the Amtrak buses and the Flixbuses. They need to get into the parking lot without this idea of there being queuing lines at the entrances. So we give and grant access to this parking lot even when it is full. And this helps ensure just dropping off and picking up of the Amtrak and Greyhound customers, as well as the bus service, again, that needs to load just adjacent in that loading zone that's right in front of the Amtrak station.
I got you.
Thank you.
Yep.
So moving forward, we're just going to show a picture of our State Street entrance and exit, as well as our kiosk. This parking lot is kind of a thoroughfare of people trying to get to the other side and get to Montecito and cutting through. So this is an important entrance for us. We also have the Chapala Street entrance and exit. And this entrance is super important because this is the main access point for our Amtrak and Flixbuses. This just gives the buses an opportunity to get into that loading zone area without having to maneuver within the parking lot, which can be very difficult for the buses. The next entrance that we have is the Ray Road entrance gate. And so we have 3 entrances, 2 exits, and the 2 parking kiosks where we staff. So the train depot lot requires that we staff both parking kiosks from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. at a cost of about $80,000 per kiosk per year. It effectively is our least efficient lot in regards to how we have to pay for operations with the amount of revenue that we're collecting just because of so much short-term parking. See, we cannot automate this lot, and we have multiple issues that come with a gated facility with regards to limited exit lanes. That's a big one just across all of our parking facilities when trying to do automation. When there's an influx of exiting vehicles, it really just puts us in a position that limits limits the time at which they can get out. So it just creates lines, and of course it takes time for even free parkers to get out of the parking lots. Also, a reason for us to not be able to automate is cash transactions. We need somebody there to assist with cash transactions as well as user error. If there is user error, we need to be there to assist. This parking lot, again, is unique with that Amtrak, Greyhound, or Flixbus. We need to provide validations there for those who take those services. So we need staff there to assist with that. And then again, and probably most important is the buses entering and exiting. They have a hard time getting to the exit or the entrance columns and the exit columns without having to run around the buses and get into or out of the parking lots. So we are considering a more pay-by-plate model here. The waterfront moved to a pay and display model back in 2014 in all their parking lots except for the wharf and the harbor. We recently ventured into a self-pay model over at our Helena lot, which has proven successful. It's created turnover within our Helena lot parking lot, created open spaces or available spaces instead of filling up and then just not having parking space for our customers, and then of course making some revenue for us. The waterfront will be implementing a new pay-by-phone option, which will be operational in June. We've been blessed to partner with them and get on their RFP process for that. So just in case we are interested in using that functionality of having a pay-by-phone option, we could use it and have that. Moving the depot lot to a non-gated model would help with user expectations, aligned with kind of what we see with the waterfront parking and everything that's below the 101. So all parking would kind of align with the same model. The user experience should improve significantly with just some technology. The mobile pay options give so many different variations of being able to extend stays, stuff like that. Most importantly, I think for me, just seeing what I see down there, will be no queuing at the exits. And that's a big one at that parking lot, with this idea that we have people dropping off and picking up and trying to get out. The buses are trying to get out. If we have just a holdup at that line or in those exit lines, it creates some major issues. So not having queuing lines because there are no exit gates would help tremendously. And then there will be no need to go back to the car for a pay and display type system if we're doing pay by plate. You walk up to a column, you pay, you enter your plate, and you get a walk away. So we've evaluated some of the costs associated with installing a pay-by-plate model at the depot lot. First thing you'll see is that you'll see the installation fees for different types of pay-on-foot stations we may have, whether it is solar or hardwired in. Some of the units would be cash and credit. Some of the units could only be credit. And then you'll see the total costs kind of associated to it. We've been able to evaluate some different companies that essentially offer the same thing, which are these pay-on-foot stations. We are currently working with T2, which is the Luke that we have over at our Helena lot. But we have evaluated TIBA, Hub Parking, and the Parking Box as other facilities, or sorry, other companies with pay-on-foot stations. Here you're going to see an aerial view of the downtown, or the depot lot, or lot 13. We have noted in the green stars where we would like to put a pay-on-foot station, which again would help utilize those, or help those customers that are utilizing State Street, the Funk Zone, the Amtrak station, the Greyhound services, and or places on Montecito. You'll also note there in the yellow triangles those are existing light poles where we could place some type of pay by phone option signs on there to just, again, help our customers have an easy way to pay for parking utilizing an app or their phone. And that gives them a variety of different abilities for paying for parking, extending stays, stuff like that. That is about it for me. I'm going to pass it back over to Ed. Do you want me to go to the next one? And
Sure.
Ed will be taking it on from here.
We really want to appreciate your all's input and sort of thinking into this concept. There's the logistics of it, and there's also sort of other ways that other things that might come along with this. So, for example, we probably also want to think about how could we drop the daily max. Right now it's $10 for long haul bus and Amtrak users. It would be the easiest to make this a $10 daily max lot. We could basically no longer do a validation and just drop the daily max, which is something that we're interested to do overall. Are there ways that we can do that in a cost-neutral way? What works with sort of the self-service and pay-by-plate that maybe wasn't available to us with a gated lot? We have 3 entries, 2 exits. Because we block one of the exits. Are there other circulation possibilities? You know, Parks and Recreation had reached out to us about the Bay Morton Fig Tree. It's effectively our Chapala Street, Montecito facing entry goes under the Bay Morton Fig. Changing that configuration could extend the lifespan of that tree. That's not something that we necessarily can fund, but it's something that we want to be open to if possible. There's considerations for customers. There's also really important considerations for the buses themselves. We have to make sure that they have really easy circulation because they're on timetables. We want them to be able to keep that. But that is something that we've been considering. If we were to remove a kiosk, it makes it easier. The Fish Lot entrance, the Ray Road entrance, we could simply remove that kiosk and have better access through that entry and exit point. Also, how can we just best utilize this lot for everything that we're doing to support transit, Moxie users? When I mentioned the functional lawn, one of the first things that we said is kids from the Moxie will eat lunch, and you'll especially see during the day on field trips, you'll see kids eating packed lunch on our grass adjacent State Street. All right, so we want to keep that lawn because if that's a natural function of that space, we want to encourage that, right? When we were thinking about and started to advertise the REA building space, one of the first people we reached out to was the Moxie. What are your all's needs for your constituents? How are we supporting the Funk Zone in terms of parking supply? How are we pairing with Waterfront? How are we interfacing and supporting West Beach users? As you know, there's a pedestrian access across the rail track to West Beach. And of course, this is really the nexus between the Funk Zone and then the commercial block on Montecito Street, on what's West Montecito Street. So anyway, this is all, there's a lot that's happening in this lot. Parking and revenue control is probably our most important consideration to get right really over the next 6 months. And so we want your all's input and we want your creative thinking there. So how might we convert to pay-by-plate in Lot 13? How might that impact operations? How might that impact our customers? And what other improvements might we want in this area? Is this something that we might see for other surface lots as well? So with that, turn to you all for questions.
All right, thanks for this update. I feel like this lot is often kind of overlooked and feels a little bit detached from the other infrastructure we were thinking about. So thank you for this. Do we have questions for staff on this presentation? I see Committee Member Cohen, and we'll go down the line.
Thank you so much for this presentation. It's definitely an interesting concept. So I think someone mentioned being able to extend your stay easily past what you maybe initially pay for. How would that work?
Thank you for the question. So with the ability to use a pay-by-phone application, you have to prepay for parking, and that would work the same with whatever pay-on-foot station that we utilize. But with the pay-by-phone option, most of the applications that they have will let you know how long your stay is and that you're about to expire, which essentially puts you in a position that you didn't pay for parking. So you can easily extend your stay for whatever period of time that you want through the app.
Okay, that sounds good. The other thing, have we, Have we worked or considered partnering with MTD or B-Cycle or installing bike lockers, anything that might reduce parking demand and reduce like the lines and, everyone coming all at once?
Committee Member Cohen, absolutely. So one of the biggest stalls that we have of B-cycle racks is there at the train station. Similarly, they're not working great, but there are, I think, 6 bike lockers
Right.
that were initially put in, actually, in a different capacity. I helped install those back when commuter rail service with rechimed Amtrak was first coming, I want to say 7 years ago. And that was specifically for additional commuter users there. We have had an on-site visit with SBCAG staff, one of your colleagues, Aaron,
Yes.
to sort of think out needs and possibilities with the space, especially in conjunction with enhanced commuter rail service. So we are absolutely open to that need. I think that it's a very important and sort of related to the slot, but related to our system overall, question of how do we interface with MTD and how do we interface with our other partners, between the bike spot, secure bike parking that we offer. Are there ways that we can reconfigure that in the future? Are there ways specifically for this lot? How do we best utilize B-cycle in the future? Are there ways that we can be synced up with those services in terms of the customer experience? That's all material that we really want to continue to explore.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would make having more options would make a huge difference for those queues that might happen. Is now a time for like comments or just questions?
Let's hold off on comments until public comment.
Okay, I'm good then.
We'll skip over to Committee Member LaBrie because I know he has to leave.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, apologies to my committee members. I have to leave after this comment. But if staff could just, big picture, this seems like a master planning effort and conversation. What do you anticipate the conversation looking like and unfolding? Is this, we can give you some comments today, and committee members can give you some comments and some feedback, but what does the big picture plan look like? How's that going to unfold?
Thank you, Committee Member LaBrie, and I'm going to do my best to answer this. I think that there is short-term and long-term ways of moving forward with this facility. In the short term, we really are, we continue to be in a budget crunch in order to stay solvent and to which we have been able to sort of resolve. We do need to convert some of our parking access and revenue controls. We would like to, over the next 5 months, prepare an alternate parking access revenue control for this lot as an experiment that would then give us input that could help us think across the needs of the rest of the system. So we would like to make pretty immediate changes to this lot. We think it's the most unique and would also tell us information. It's the perfect lot to give us the information that we need to inform bigger decisions for the rest of our system. And then in terms of the other needs for this lot, there's a number of projects sort of underway, and there's more to come. And I think that with the facilities, we have a CASP, which is Certified Access Professional, that's going to look in depth in this lot and get basically permit-ready plans that we could consider moving forward with for this purpose. And we'll have a lot more information that we'll want to bring back to this committee, and we certainly will do that. I don't think that we're trying to do a larger planning-specific project at this time, but we will definitely be bringing this issue back to the committee.
So just as a quick follow-up, if it ends up that that staff and the committee want to expedite some of the work on this, and there's a ad hoc committee formed. I would be interested in participating. And thank you again. Apologies for having to leave.
Yes, thank you, committee member. We'll go back to committee member Evers.
So, yeah, thank you. I'm curious, the idea behind putting in pay by phone is to get rid of the kiosks, right? But you did advocate for the necessity of the docents in the kiosks to keep the traffic flow and inform people there. So what would that look like if you put the pay by phone? Are you still having one docent on staff who is checking and enforcing?
Thank you. Appreciate the question. So the way we're evaluating it is we see that there's absolutely some benefits to the gates being there, but there's also a lot of issues that we're seeing with the gates. So with this idea of moving to a pay-by-plate model, which could utilize a walk-up column that you could pay for, or use your phone to pay, this would give us the ability to not have the gates down, which would give free access to everybody that is coming in, which is already happening, again, because we don't lock out the parking lot, but will be tremendous with the idea of getting vehicles out of the parking lot, which we have issues with when, a train shows up and everybody's coming in to get, their family member or friend or whoever to pick up. Upon exiting, there creates some queuing lines and some issues. And then, you may have somebody who loses a ticket, and then it takes even more time. So without the gates themselves, just allows our customers to leave without being held up at the exit. And then without gates at the entrance, just allows them to come in, which is already happening. Hope I answered that question.
A little bit more clarity would be just basically, are you going to still be having 2 docents on staff, or are you going to be
We would
limiting
not.
that? Okay.
Yeah,
So that would,
this operationally, this would give us the ability of just having to check on the parking lot and ensuring that people are paying. It could be hourly, it could be every 2 hours. It really depends on operations and how we feel it needs to be needs to be done, but can be done by one staff member instead of having two operators within the kiosks.
Yeah. So real quickly, to add to that, if we move to this system similar to what we're learning from the Helena lot, we still need to have eyes in the space because we're managing the space, right, for public safety purposes, for parking functionality. So we have ambassadors that rove through the space twice a day. We similarly will have, and again, it could be as often as hourly. It could just be a few times a day. We would have downtown parking staff drive through the entirety of the lot, and then effectively what they do, and we are partnered with the waterfront and the police department in a system of how we issue what's called a courtesy notice or a fee due notice. So right now for a Helena lot, it's a $22 fee of you did not pay, right? We started that as we transitioned. I think we gave like a 3-week window of warnings. You didn't pay. If you don't pay in the future, you'll receive a courtesy notice. The way those courtesy notices are structured is you have X amount of time to pay that, and if you clearly have not paid that, it rolls into a citation. So right now on the street, if you get a parking citation, that's a citation that's pretty formal, and that's a higher fee. I believe it's a $60 fee right now. If you do not pay a courtesy notice over a period of time, it converts to a citation. What's really important about that is it allows our cost recovery. It allows for those fee due notices to be taken seriously. So again, that's not a focus. That's just how we sort of maintain keeping people honest. But that also provides us eyes and ears kind of in the lot, because as our staff are driving through, if there's a problem, they'll attend to it.
Other questions? Vice Chair Stahl.
Thank you, Chair Newkirk. This question is for you, but also potentially Ethan or Ed. What growing pains or what have you learned from this implementation at the Helena lot that might have been unanticipated about going with the pay-by-plate or pay-on-foot model?
Thank you for the question. Growing pains. I truly believe that the benefits have been amazing there at the Holiday Lot. We've learned a lot with regards to kind of our model across just the downtown parking, which is wanting to keep spaces available for customers. I don't know that it's different, than the way we operate our downtown parking lots now, where we have a staff member, you come out and you pay, so they are prepaying for their parking. I guess the biggest growing pain is kind of like what Ed was referring to with the idea that people don't pay. And we have to monitor the lot differently, going through and verifying, at least at this point, through the pay and display receipt, whether they paid or not. So there's some hiccups that kind of come involved with it operationally with our staff going down there having to evaluate each vehicle. But otherwise, most of it has been very positive with what we're seeing at the lane lot.
If I could just add real quickly to your question, Committee Member Stahl, I really want to appreciate, Rory especially, one of the things that we learned is actually setting these up is pretty complex. But once they're in operation and set up, it's pretty smooth. So it's a very front-loaded set of work.
Thanks. Committee Member McCray.
As a follow-up to that question, in terms of timing, am I understanding correctly that the waterfront is moving away from the pay-by-plate, putting the ticket on your dash, returning? That's happening in June, all being on the phone. And would we be able to piggyback, if we were to implement this, would we be able to piggyback and launch at the same time? Would they sort of be in tandem?
Thank you very much for the question. Waterfront has already transitioned away from their pay and display and moved towards pay by plate. So you walk up to their columns, you enter in your plate number, you decide how long you want to stay, how much you're going to pay, and then they monitor that through their license plate recognition cameras on their vehicle. So that's already in place. Now, what we're referring to in June is they'd like to add an element of being able to pay by their phone. The customer can pay by their phone with that a system or model that they already have. That will be, or they're looking to have implemented in June. And our downtown parking program was added in the RFP so we could utilize that system and model if we choose to. So they're going to use both models in tandem, just again to give better experience for the customer.
All right, let's go to public comment. Committee Member Evers.
One more question is this system that you guys will be using for the pay-by-plate the same as Skid Data or part of Skid Data?
Thank you for the question. We've evaluated different vendors, different providers for our systems. Skid Data was one of them, and we are still in discussion with them if they could do it. From what we know and just history of working with Skid Data, they're typically a gated system. It's kind of what they make their money on, and they do good with it when it comes to having an entrance gate and an exit gate. So they say they have an ability to do it, but it does look like other companies are kind of ahead of the game with the removal of gates and having some type of pay by plate model, whether it is a pay on foot station or by phone. So it will continue to evaluate it to see if they are the best fit for this, if we are able to move forward. But we're going to be evaluating the different vendors just to see who is the best vendor for this.
All right, let's go to public comment.
We have no speakers.
Back to the committee for comments, and Ed, you're kind of looking at feedback on this transition, the short-term transition, and maybe any other kind of thoughts we have about kind of circulation and fee structure. So it's kind of open-ended on kind of the operations of the lot.
Well said. This is the priority for cost efficiency and our budgetary needs is to fully evaluate this change for parking access and revenue control. This is in the context of the different projects and different needs that we've walked through. Yes, please frame your comments that can inform our process over the next few months in terms of how should we best be considering this and what might we not be thinking about that are important considerations for our responsibility to best manage this lot for all those users.
Great. So comments from the committee?
I think keeping, similar to the same vanities you guys have on this presentation, is keeping the user expectations very uniform throughout all the lots. So like if you're using one thing in Helena lot, use that everywhere. I know there's one app that I've been using a lot to park on the go, in Ventura at least, that I use all throughout California. And it's like, me as a user, I already have that app. I'm able to like easily navigate. Done, you know?
Committee Member Everest, could I just ask real quickly what that app is? Yeah. And one thing I didn't share, which I think is really important, is we are in the midst of a really significant change in the parking technology space. It used to be there were a different sandbox and you were in somebody's ecosystem. You pretty much needed to stick with that given technology and that particular vendor. And now it's much more of a technology stack. And so these companies, they play well together. They work with each other. So, for example, the pay-by-plate, that's supplemental. So, and it's not just one vendor, it's multiple. So effectively, people can pay with what they are already used to paying with. And that's the direction we're going. So curious if that came up for you.
It's Park Mobile, and it's the reason it's probably very popular, or I had known about it, is it's heavily implemented around Isla Vista. And I'm a recent graduate from UC Santa Barbara, so I would use it there.
Great. And I know that is one of the two firms that Waterfront is contracting with, which we piggyback on.
Great. Other comments? Committee Member Cohen?
All right, so, yeah, as mentioned before, definitely need to consider including MTD or some other kind of shuttle that would come at least during the time that trains are there. Also, I'm a little bit concerned about the $10 daily max mentioned. If people are just looking to park downtown, go downtown, either for work or for pleasure, and they're not like taking the train, and they're planning to park for the whole day, I could foresee that people are going to be parking at this lot instead of others because they can pay less, and then it would fill up, and people who are actually taking the train wouldn't be able to park there, and we would lose the revenue from other lots. So, yeah, I don't know if changing maybe if there was a different system where if you had proof that you were taking a train or a bus, you could get a different rate, but I wouldn't want everyone trying to use up that $10 daily max. But yeah, I think the pay-by-plate option is reasonable as long as we are not only doing the pay-by-phone. I want make sure that people who don't have smartphones or don't want to use them aren't left out of it.
Thank you. Other comments? I'll mention, I just think so much of, the downtown parking, when we do changes, I think it's just really important how we message stuff and provide infographics, and because I feel like that's been a stumbling block in the past, is losing the message and the rationale to the public. So I think I think if, in terms of the revenue question and the efficiency, I think it's the right lot. And in terms of like the consistency between lots, I kind of think of this lot as like part of Funk Zone and Waterfront. So I think it's a good place to do this and see how it works. I think moving above State Street might be a real different challenge. But I think to have, even if it's interdepartmental, to have the same systems kind of south of the 101 makes a lot of sense. So from that perspective, I think might be an easier transition because it'll look more like the other lots down there. Yeah, and I'd be interested about the circulation long-term and the kind of the 3 different locations. I don't know if I think I'd have to go walk down there. I haven't used that lot in ages. So I don't know that feel informed enough, but I guess a question is, why the third entrance, why don't we allow exiting there?
Thank you for the question. That's a good question. I don't know. It's always been an entrance. And so for us to, at least in the system we have now, make it an exit, it would have to be automated. There's no kiosk for a staff member, which we do. We do at other parking facilities where we don't have a staff member in one of the exit lanes. So, but it most definitely creates challenges if there's a customer that is there and needs assistance. We either try to walk them through the problem over our intercom system, or we have to send somebody down there. So strategically having somebody around would be beneficial to making that an exit. I know there'd be some challenges in terms of just the infrastructure and adjusting the column to be on the other side so that they could exit, but we've never just ventured to go that route for whatever reason there.
Yeah, so it seems like maybe if we go to the new system, there may be more flexibility in the egress and ingress options, that location versus right by the tree, and maybe there could be some give on that location. Vice Chair Stahl.
Thank you, Chair Newkirk. In terms of circulation, then I wonder if, I don't know what the implementation timeline would be, but I know Stefanos Polzoides has been talking about making Chapala two-way as being a consideration for the city, and I don't know what kind of timeline that would be, but it might be something to take into account then and to hold off on investing a lot of money and changing the flow with the assumption that Chapala long-term will continue to be a one-way couplet with Anacapa or Santa Barbara. I don't know if that would significantly impact the flow into the parking lot.
Committee Member Stahl, I think you're getting a really important point, and I may be misinterpreting your point, so please correct me if I'm wrong. One of the challenges with some of the streets, and actually a naming convention problem, sometimes is when a street is not contiguous, it would actually be better if it had a different name. Chapala historically was contiguous before the freeway was completed, and people, old timers, talk about how vibrant this space was when you could drive across the 101 on Chapala. And the Chapala was actually the main entry. Chapala was like a very important corridor pre-completion of kind of the 101. And again, State Street Underpass, 1991, up till then had like a traffic light. People love to talk about this, right? So I don't believe that a change north of 101 would materially affect this area. It's almost just a convention that we call it Chapala. It does not function because both the railroad blocking it and the 101, Chapala south of 101 should almost be named something different, right? In terms of how people try to navigate nowadays. So understood, but I think that, unless I'm misunderstanding your question.
No, I think I'm also picturing the map wrong in my head, and then the names are. Yeah, okay. No, I just wanted to see if it might impact it, but I see what you're saying, that it wouldn't. Trying to visualize now the extended map beyond what we have here, like where cars move, where they're exiting off the freeway, getting onto the freeway, and all of that.
Yeah. The one thing that I will say about circulation, you might have more comments here too, is this lot does serve as a cut-through for people from Montecito Street to State Street. Effectively, because of the way State Street Underpass works, you can't turn from Montecito Street onto State. right? You can turn basically kind of through the function. I'm forgetting the street where it kind of forces you around to turn. Is that gray? So sometimes what people will do, especially on bikes or walking, will walk through the campus or bike through the campus to get to West Montecito Street from State Street and Yananali. Because Yananali effectively tees into this campus and becomes that State Street entrance. We should almost call it the Yananali entrance. So that is a consideration, and the gates might slow people down, and there might be more cut-through traffic if we remove the gate, and that's something that we would have to think about.
Thank you. Other comments from committee members? Seeing none, thank you for this presentation. It's really interesting to see. I think we'll be interested to see how this goes and what we learn and what might be useful for the rest of the system. Thank you. All right. With that, we are adjourned.